All right, so I should be live according to OBS right now. Maybe. We'll find out here in a second. Hopefully everything sounds good. OBS should be happy. Um, so yeah, what the heck have I been doing for the last while? I've been like not really streaming very often, but my GitHubs or my GitLab seems pretty active. So what's been going on here? Um, well, personally, I've been too busy to stream, so I had a really busy year last year. I got married, got a house, had some family stuff. It's been really busy but really fun. And decided that like I could chip away at it while I'm like cuddling with my now wife on the couch. Um, and but I didn't have like a lot of big chunks of time where I could like talk into a camera and do it too. Also, it's like a bit more mentally taxing to like talk about it while you're doing it and try to like put on a camera persona while you're streaming. So I have been working on it. I just haven't been streaming it. But now life's chilled out a little bit, and I'm not gonna try to like stream regularly because it kind of takes the fun out of it. And this is more of a fun like portfolio thing than anything else. Other stuff I've been doing besides chipping away at Shiftmon is I switched to libvirt from Proxmox. The main reason being backing up Proxmox when you don't have block storage available is more expensive. It's not bad, like Proxmox backup server's cool, um, but it's way cheaper to just yeet QCOW2 files into some sort of either object storage or I'm using Borg-based to do that. So I decided to switch away from that. That um, the other cool thing that got opened up was being able to look at Podman containers in a GUI. So you can use LXC containers, which aren't very portable, but they're very efficient and they're very nice if you're running like web applications for people who aren't Docker gurus. Um, so that's really cool. But it sucks when you want to like switch to something else. So if I wanted to switch like a KVM VM to a Zen VM, I can QEMU, image it over to whatever format it's expecting or just a raw block device. You can't do that with an LXC container. You're basically stuck in the world of maybe LXD with Ubuntu, depending on if you can get the metadata to switch over right or running in Proxmox. Whereas like there's a bunch of ways to orchestrate KVM images, and there's also ways of getting it out of KVM. So if you want to switch to like Zen, if you're a big XEPNG person, or you just hate yourself and want to use Hyper-V, you can do that. Um, so yeah, that's been kind of one of my big home lab projects. Is also cockpit machines got really good was the other reason I switched to it. You can do like an unattended install of an operating system from here. So I could just like go to create a VM, stream test, and I could just like pick an operating system and it'll like net boot it and whatnot. There's Testing. Oh, I need to play some background music. I'm gonna mute my desktop audio really quick and pull up Spotify. My headphones fell asleep. Crap. Sounds like I'm listening to YouTube. Alright, we shouldn't have anything going on. Okay, yeah. So basically what happened is my wireless headset went to sleep because there's no output. It sucks it can't register input, but yeah. Some of these things are unpopulated because of the setup I have, because I have AdGuard for DNS, and that's why these two panels aren't popular, or these three panels aren't populated. Then Suricata I have, uh, but I need to log into it. That one I sadly have to troubleshoot off stream because it's like I'm gonna show my IP address and all that fun stuff on screen. All right. Last thing that I want to talk about is Uptime Kuma. So Uptime Kuma is a black box monitoring tool. Everything in ShiftMod so far has been white box, which means everything's been white box so far, which means the thing sending telemetry data is inside the system and can see it and is aware of the innards of the system and how it works. Black box is you're going at it as if you were a user or somebody who didn't have inside information. So like doing an HTTP health check kind of thing. Um, so yeah. So I have a Grafana dashboard for Uptime Kuma. And there's also the Uptime Kuma application that gets installed with ShiftMon. So a design choice I made was I could do this with Telegraf. Uptime Kuma. I could have done this with Telegraf and just wrote an Ansible role, but I figured a lot of like tier 1 techs and a lot of people who don't want to have like giant Ansible inventories would want to do uptime checks. So if you just have like a small environment, and this is what the tool is targeted for, is small environments where like you just have one probe. This isn't great if you want to check your application from like a VM in Europe, a VM in the North America, and a VM in South America. It's not good for this scenario. But if you just need to check if like your home lab's up and running or you have like a small deployment, this is really good. The other nice thing is like you could set up Telegraf to grab this information from multiple Uptime Kuma instances. The one thing I don't like about Uptime, I guess two things I don't like about Uptime Kuma is that it's single user. So if you wanted to do like RBAC controls, that's not there. Um, the other thing is uh, there's no like it's not automation friendly. I think everything's managed in like a SQLite database, whereas StatPingNG has an API, or if you use synthetic monitoring from Grafana Cloud, um, it has like a Terraform provider, which is really nice to use. But this is really nice for just like small casual deployments. So you can add little bitty checks. It shows you the latency of it, and it can also send notifications out to a service. The other thing it provides is scraping a Prometheus endpoint, which does come built into ShiftMod, I believe. So yeah, you have this really nice tool where you can edit and create checks. They have a bunch of different checks, so you can check the health of a bunch of different specific applications along with just HTTP. Can also set up notifications to Matrix was another reason why I used it. So yeah, that's kind of what have I been up to. What else did I say I was going to talk about in the stream? Telegraf updates, prettier dashboards, and fixing all the non-reporting stuff. Yes, non-reporting stuff. So uptime Kim is happy. Adguard was not. So let's explore. So there's nothing in here that ends in this path. That was another update. I was running it on an Ubuntu LXC container, or something without SE Linux, and then to make SE Linux happy, I had to install it in a goofy directory. So let's figure out why Telegraf can't read this. Let's go to mine, which is dot. And let me, what is it, Control plus? There. Alright, so my guess is that I would need to run Telegraf on root, might be the lazy way to do this. So ls la user local bin okay, so this is all owned by root. So data. So let's list the data dir and see what's going on here. So everything should be readable by Telegraf because everything has like read available to the parent. But let's kind of see what Telegraf's doing. Like it might be a permissions issue. I think kind of the next thing I'm going to work on these streams is getting it to be like happy. Oh, shoot. I know what's happening. So something that can happen with AdGuard is that it generates a crap ton of data if you log every DNS query. And so it basically, if it falls off at one point, it will save up. Let me back up. So what happens with this plugin, and I can show and tell. So it's looking for these two JSON files. And these two files include every, actually it's in this one. Copy. Tail. This is every DNS query that shows up in this, for this server. And that's a lot of data that sometimes Loki just kind of falls over itself trying to ingest. So there's two ways to deal with this. One is to increase the amount of data our Loki server can ingest, because the error here, wait, this is just getting a connection refused to Loki. So basically it can't write logs. So I guess if this might not be the problem where it's just sending too much data, it might just be that Loki is not seeing it. So let's look for dot. So it's seeing syslog data, but it's not seeing, Jesus. It's seeing like 1,000 logs. Let's zoom in on this window. Okay, so if we widen out this window and go back, or do the smart thing and open it in another tab. to last 12 hours. We should get some data. Oh. Okay. It's not seeing a host. So I think what's happening is like it is what I think it is. So it can read the file because everything it's global read on all of the log files and it can touch the folder and all that. So it is receiving some data. The problem is that it's receiving data intermittently. So if we go to this pattern and go back to like the last 12 hours, you see these giant spikes of like 1,000 logs, but then it just like craps itself because it gets full. So it catches up and then falls behind. So I think the issue is it's just receiving too much data for or for Telegraf to process. So I wonder if there's a way to deal with that in the default config. Because even if you zoom in, I think you should be able to see yeah, you can see the behavior over like an hour time period. So it looks like it's a Telegraf config issue. The crappy part about this one is like I'm gonna have to test it over hours or whatever. Or what's the time period? It's like catching it and it's cutting off at 1,000. So I wonder if that's we're looking for the number of 1,000 somewhere. Um, oh yeah, that's right. Um, so if I had to guess, it's running into one of these limits right here. So sadly, I have to take this off screen for a second. Etsy, because I don't want to accidentally cat out a password. Etsy defaults, Telegraf. All right. I think it's the metric batch size is happening. So it's trying to capture all of this data in a certain amount of time. So this is coming from the Telegraf defaults file. Here. So all you can store environment variables, basically environment variables inside of Etsy default Telegraf, and then access them. Um, and then fill them in a little bit. So if I had to guess, the metric buffer limit is probably fine and the metric batch size is off. So what we need to do is we need to change that to like 2 or 3K. I might just set it to 10K and see if that works and then restart Telegraf and see if we start getting more consistent data. And then I'm going to go through Ansible Semaphore and kind of push that change out. Recently, due to other use cases where I need just to collect crap tons of data via Telegraf, I've needed to mess around with these numbers. So now the Ansible role will var this out. That's something I think I need to talk about more on stream. Is that ShiftMon actually does a bunch of stuff for you, and it deals with all of the shenanigans I've had to deal with running into like applications needing to scrape a crap ton of data, and you don't have to run into it. You basically get a learn from all of my stupid mistakes. or you get to learn all the lessons I have without banging your head against your desk, I guess is the best way to describe it. So I'm going to edit that file off screen and bump up the order of magnitude. And then Etsy default Telegraf. This is where I judge myself for um, not using like Vault or something else super cool to manage secrets. System CTL restart Telegraf. I wonder if there's something in the logs that's going to confirm my suspicion. So let's do that. Wait, why is it pissed off about metrics? Oh, I wonder if Vicky was down. And that's why it's mad about metrics. So yeah, that's what's going on here. It was just like getting too full of metrics basically. Or DNS is getting broke. Okay, cool. So you can see DNS. So yeah, now everything should be hunky-dory. So I just bumped up those metrics by a factor of 10. The problem is the next time I spit out Ansible, or I tell Ansible to redeploy it, it is going to override that. So let's zoom in for like the last 5 minutes, and hopefully we get like a more sane log volume. Okay. So yeah, everything should be happy now. So now how the heck do I do this in Semaphore? So the way I deploy this isn't running it on the CLI, it's deploying it via Semaphore. Just because keeping Ansible command line flags is a giant pain in the butt. And that's kind of one of those home lab traps I fell into earlier. Did I need it? No. Is it really cool to do? Yes. I guess I did need it because my Ansible inventories would get out of sync on my laptop versus my desktop, and it would cause some issues because I'd like update a secret or an SSL certificate or something like that, and then it wouldn't be on the other one, and I'd have to like SCP it, and it was just a faff, as the British folk would say. All right, so let's open up the right repo. Oh, I haven't worked on shiftmon in here. Holy crap. Shift systems. The other thing I've been working on is a fleet Ansible role. I think I might end the stream with that because that's a cool piece of software. Or I can talk about it next time. So clone. All right. No, did I do it dumb? Yeah, I did. Don't remove that file. RM tech R. So the reason I'm cloning this isn't to like edit a dashboard or anything just yet. It's so that I can. Did that refresh? Yes, it did. The main reason is so that I could see everything. Also, if you have questions in the chat, feel free to ask. So Telegraf templates defaults.j2. Metric batch size. This is what I needed. So basically, this file is a template that will see, oh, Loki users defined, Loki passwords defined. If you don't have the URL defined, you have to have that minimally. Same with the username and password, but yeah. So this is an if else that's basically saying, hey, I think there's a more elegant way to do this, but if the size is defined, use the size, but give it a default value of 1,000. I think there's a better way to do this, and I'll need to check if there's a better way to do defaults. This is good enough for now. So I need to define metric batch size, semaphore. I need to define metric batch size and something else. Sweet, I'm already logged in. So I'm going to edit this. It's going to show up in a form. Let me check if I can show this. Okay, cool. Sorry. I'm trying to be careful about exposing like secrets on stream. So this can be defined on a per host basis. And then what was the other one? Metric batch size. And then buffer limit. I think this one has to be bigger than this one, and I'm just adding on a 0 just to like get rid of the problem. If I run into a performance thing, I run into a performance thing. So let's get that guy and dot squared away. Okay. Good. This is very good. Adjust my mic. So now I can go to task templates, go to Telegraf, throw an L flag. L stands for limit. I heard this on Ask Noah Show or Destination Linux, but a pro tip when you're trying to like learn CLI flags and stuff is to it's to put an English word to the flag. I shouldn't say English. Put a word or a term to the flag that makes it make sense to you. So like the L flag stands for limit, or like Vim's a really good example of it because there's so many key bindings that you need to memorize that it makes sense to deal with that, or to like know that I stands for insert. The arrow keys I think are just ergonomic, so those you just kind of have to learn, but a lot of the shortcuts are like W's right. You're gonna be dumb today, aren't you? All right. Um, Sometimes my service account, for whatever reason, is silly, and I need to drill down to the bottom of it at some point. Dot local go through local shift systems.net. Should work. Should. Well, go through's the one that actually needs to change. The other two should be fine. Now we can go back to this. By the way, this is Ansible Semaphore. Basically, it's a web wrapper for running your. Wait a minute. That should have reset. Did I do that to the right server? Ansible Ansible playbooks. So it should have happened. Oh, okay. I did it to Armin. Armin needs it too. I do dumb stuff like that a lot. Like, I feel like I have two Cheems inside me. The one is the GigaChad jacked one where it's like, I have created an entire observability stack you can shove onto a virtual machine without the need for object storage or very few external services. Also me. I can't copy paste things under the right host. So let's go to task templates. Wait, I can go here. I can go to rerun. And then I forget if this updates the inventory. Screw it. I'm just going to run it for all my hosts. Yeah, I don't know if this happened on the stream or not, but I started using Ansible handlers a ton. So what an Ansible handler is basically it's something that runs. What the hell? That's not good. Failed. Okay. I can't type. Yeah, my wife's laughing at me. She's so supportive. Usually she's very supportive. She also likes to enjoy the fact that I'm a human being. YAML spacing, it's so fun, right kids? Instead of brackets, you get spacing errors. I actually know like certain people hate YAML because of that, but it's like, remember, it could be worse. It could be like having to type bash scripts out still. Or what was the other thing? Somebody who's an engineer at GitHub is like making their own cluster scheduler, but making it way like more low level than Nomad, and it accepts JavaScript as the input, and not like a config language, which is like, oh god, this is gonna be fun. It's really interesting, and she made a good argument for it, which is basically every config language tends towards Turing completeness, which, yeah, Ansible has that with Jinja, where like you can do if statements and like more complicated programming language features, and there are times where it would be nice to just like use a real programming language. With the Ansible, you can do it with Python, but doing it natively is an interesting and novel approach. I shouldn't say novel. Plumi does it too. I don't like it because YAML's more idiot proof. Um, so like you don't have to know how to program, you just have to learn how to write text, and you don't have to know like programming constructs. But I think for what this person was going for, it was for big brain people running big brained clusters. So it kind of made sense. But yeah. So handlers worked, yay, it actually restarted. So now we should start seeing data for those two. We'll find out if those were the right numbers, but it's kind of cool to see like a feature I wrote for a client like actually helped me out too. And that's kind of one of the things that's cool about open source is like it builds tribal knowledge. So like somebody else's pain and problem, they could share that solution to that problem with you and improve it really quickly. All right, so Adgard should be happy at some point. We should start seeing Gother here any second, but all right. So what was the other thing? Oh yeah, the no data condition in a lot of errors. So a good example of that is going to be suricata. So what I want to have happen is these three are like, these could make sense because you might not be running Unbound. And Telegraf on OpenSense isn't going to be smart enough to know that. Or like, I don't know of a way to say of like, hey, if there's no time series with this data source print, it's fine. There's nothing here, but it's fine. Like basically I want there to be a difference between there's no data, we good, and no data like, oh shoot. Um, so I think there's a no data crap. There's some field overrides, value mappings, data links. Oh, no value. That should show up. Apply. Oh, I wonder if it's like not showing up because it's inside of a table. So I wonder if you can do like a value mapping for that. Nope, you can't. Timestamp. Do I not have Suricata alerts turned on? I'm gonna log into my firewall really quick. Or is this the part where I fire myself? Yes, I could check it over SSH faster. It shows secrets. Cat user local etsy telegraf.conf. Oh, yay. I just had the local IP. Should maybe show some secret. Do I have Suricata in here? I wonder if the feature got removed because I suck at writing PHP. And this is one of the things I'm slowly starting to dislike OpenSense for, is that there's not like a programmatic, I shouldn't say programmatic. I can't interact with it on the CLI and the web interface at the same time, or I'm ignorant. One of the two. Services. What was I going to? Telegraf, input. Oh, no, I just wrote a bug. I should probably get around to fixing that at some point. So basically, I wrote a bug here, and that's why it's not collecting alerts. So let me... Oh, no. It's working. Tail var log suricata. Yeah, what the heck? Oh, do I have to run Telegraf as root? That might be it. So I think what's going on is Telegraf is not being run as root, which is causing the problem. Your CPU, collect CPU time. General. Run as root. What the heck? Well, what's going wrong with you then? Var log telegraph dot log. Is it pulling from the wrong data source maybe? No, that's right. I wonder. Path var log. Could also just be like I'm not querying over a long enough period. So let's explore. One super cool thing about Grafana is this explore feature. I think a lot of other observability systems have it, but let's just make sure I'm not being too much of a derp. Okay, so there's no volume data over the last 2 days. 230210. Okay, so it should have something over the last few days. So what the heck's going on here? I wonder if the name's not showing up. So if I do Surrey. My dogs just got tripped up. Ah, crap. Name. Exact syslog. What the heck? So for some reason it's not showing up. So let's grep the logs maybe? Grep var log telegraph. So there's nothing for like Eve showing up. Oh, sorry. Kid stuff. Let's use less because FreeBSD VI is terrible. HA proxy, God. Ugh. Sorry, I have a funny story about HA proxy where like. Alright, so let's do 2022-02- stays the 10th. Oh, that's a lie. Some SNMP stuff. Dang, dude. I wonder if I did inputs.tail. Yep. Oh yeah, this was me rewriting the exact plugin, so. I wonder if it's showing up in metric. It's a name pass thing. Okay, I know what's going on here now. So basically, I wrote a bad config because I changed the metrics name from tail to suricata. So because I think that'd be my guess. Sorry, this just clicked in my head. Um, so there's valid JSON data in here. There's no like error message in the log for like tail or any of the things that would be happening. So what's probably happening, cat ets user local etsy telegraf.com or telegraf.conf, nothing there. So the name override is suricata. But if I cat out the but if I do grep name pass user local, another thing I hate about FreeBSD is the paths are weird, in my opinion. Okay. User local etsy telegraf.d loki. That's the problem. Is that it's being name passed in and suricata is not in that list. So I'm going to so to test it, we're gonna nano user local etsy telegraf.conf. I'm so used to using Vim. I'm so used to using Vim, but then I like have to do something on pfSense or OpenSense on the CLI. I'm like not putting my VimRC and stuff on here. So I'm gonna put from beginning equal true. So what this is saying, tail the file from the beginning. So jump to the start of the file, cat out, follow the input from the beginning of that. So that's what that option does. And then off screen, I'm going to change that name pass to include suricata and then show you the result after, because there's a live secret in there. User local etsy telegraf. So I'm changing the Loki output to include suricata, and I will update the docs, I swear. Suricata. So there would have been two solutions to it. I wonder if I could move the password out of frame. Yeah, I could enough. Wait, what? Crap. I went like one line too far. Yeah. So this line right here, I'm just adding suricata to it. So then this will pass it through. The other way would have been to rename, to change the name override to a name pass, but then I have to update the upstream plugin, which is way harder. So it's just easier to add this and I'll update the docs. Because to get some of the data out of OpenSense, they don't have like a way of doing metric routing. pfSense doesn't have this either. to do metric routing inside the Telegraf plugin. So you can't say like, hey, send syslog and exec and these other things um, out of the logs or out to logs and then send everything else to metrics. It just sends everything out to the metric source you configure. The reason for that is that's, I guess, abnormal behavior or non-default behavior. So if I had to guess, the Telegraf team is assuming you're just going to dump everything to Influx, and Influx can handle strings and metrics, but sucks at high cardinality data and requires functional programming to use. So when you use better querying tools that can't ingest all data types, you have to route the metrics. So I would either have to do a bunch of work inside the OpenSense plugin, or there's they give you a .d directory where you can put config, and then it will be included in the main config. So I opted for that. All right, so now I have to off screen. Oh no, I can do it from here. Dope. Tail fr log telegraph. Okay, cool. So now, be quiet. I have to prepend the key. So now hopefully we should get data from Suricata. Showing up, but in the meantime, docs, Telegraf, OpenSense. Oh, cool. I did update that in the docs. I think I just like, oh, I know what I did. So when I was running a virtualized router and I switched it to bare metal, and instead of I thought I was smarter than the docs that I wrote and just used like the default outputs. So read the documentation, especially if you write it. Assume that you're actually smart. So that's kind of what happened here. So now if I run this again, we get 109 logs. Cool. So now it should show up on the OpenSense dashboard. We got Suricata stuff, but it looks like crap. I haven't messed with this in a while. So I guess we'll fix this and then call it a day. So yeah, this looks like trash. Labels to fields. So I think it's because it's using label to field instead of extract fields. Then look at all that data. All right, yay. All right, timestamps kind of important. Dest IP, source IP, dest port and source port. Those are important. Alert category. Is there even anything? Yes. Okay. It's just not populated for everything. Alert signature. That is important. Wow, all the important stuff's actually at the beginning. This like never happens. Usually it's just a bunch of gobbledygook that you don't care about. At proto. So like some of these are incomplete for whatever reason. Anyway, could be like an older version of Suricata too, and that's what's causing it. Anomaly event. Okay, so you actually need most of this. Just trying to run hello world as like a user agent against my server. What the hell? Oh wow, this person's an asshole. Yeesh. This is a shell injection. Injection. Um, I think this is for like some vulner. They're trying to inject commands like into a URL string or whatever. So this panel is just gonna have to look ugly because I think only certain events get populated for certain things. So like source IP addresses, but then like these things don't. So I want to sort it by timestamp, descending. Um, Wait, did I actually just? Yeah. Okay. So now the actual like filtering's working. Um, the HTTP stuff I'm not too worried about showing. Um, Basically because Suricata is too dumb for HTTP because everything's SSL at this point, and it doesn't do deep packet inspection, which there's better ways to deal with like blocking malicious IPs uh, that are doing bad things over HTTPS, namely CrowdSec and fail2ban, which there is a CrowdSec integration. So if you do need that, I would highly recommend using CrowdSec because CrowdSec doesn't have to strip SSL, which is getting harder and causes other issues from like a usability perspective, and won't let you take advantage of certain things like Quick and HTTP, or I guess it's HTTP3 and TLS 1.3. Those things get super screwy when you start doing DPI. There are better ways to do it, in my opinion, which is get the data from the origin. So if you're trying to figure what's going on going outbound, you would want to put some privacy invasive agent on the machine. If you're doing it server side, use something like CrowdSec, where it analyzes the logs. It's not analyzing traffic, so it doesn't have to like decrypt SSL, re-encrypt it, and do all that nonsense. And it can still instruct like things like Cloudflare and other sources. So yeah, there's just a bunch of metadata. I think this makes more sense to show as a log field. Let's play around with that. Um, Need to figure out the candlestick for stonks, but there's logs. I control F it right when I saw it. I think for Suricata alerts, because the data is, what is it? It's not uniform. It doesn't require a specific schema. It's probably just going to make more sense to leave it like so. It doesn't look as pretty, is the downside. But I think this is going to be more practical. And usually, if you're looking, yeah, there's this part's already like super cramped up here. I wonder if I just did like a count over here. And then this is gonna look like trash for a second. And then just do a count. Some. Oh, I did time series. I want to do a stat. So I wonder if I do the log browser, Suricata, hard code it to rows for now. Do show logs, but I thought there's like, oh, builder, there it is. Operations, aggregations, some. Heck, that's not right. Options, aggregations. There a count? Yes, there it is. So I think if I do this panel, um, I think if I do this, this makes way more sense. Where it shows you like the number of IDS alerts next to the logs. So then you could like see if there's actually a decent amount of them. Um, run. So I want to leave the shape of the data on the graph. I'm gonna leave it as base because this one kind of depends on your network. If you're actively doing like if you're expecting some amount of hostile interaction, or how big you are, like if you're running your open sense for a Fortune 500, you're probably gonna have more Suricata alerts than me at my house running like 3 web apps. Um, so now I can take this guy here, put it over here. It's gonna look super, might look a little dumb, but yeah. I scope crept this super hard, but I don't know why it's not showing the data. But let's save it, copy JSON to clipboard. All right, so now I'm going to show you how I update this. Basically what I do is I go to crap roles, Grafana, files, dashboards. Then this is the OpenSense one. Um, you can't use templated dashboards for provisioning. They have to have something in there, which kind of sucks. Perfect. You can't use templated ones where it has like your host names and stuff stripped out. So if you do plan on contributing these, you can't use generic ones. Um, and you could like make this dummy names, and if they're dummy names, it'll just be like, oh, bad default, whatever. It'll revert to like sorting alphabetically or something like that. So now I shall add you. IDS alerts, commit. It's going to ask me for my SSH key because I forgot to add it. Okay, so I do have Woodpecker CI set up to do this, but that takes like 4 hours. Okay, so now I'm going to run shiftmon, and after this roll goes, we should be good. Next time, I kind of want to go over the other thing I'm playing with, which is not Ymir, which is going to be Fleet. So Fleet DM, if you follow any tech podcast, Collide forked from Fleet, and what it is it's continuous auditing of your host. So it uses the OS Query tool, which OS Query gathers facts about a device and then exposes them in as a SQL database. So you can run SQL data. You can run SQL queries against a host or a set of hosts. Um, yeah, super interesting. The reason for this is basically to offload having to come up with a bunch of good security stuff. So OS Query has a bunch of really good queries written for you, so I don't have to write them in Telegraf. And the other nice thing is that policies. So like all this, I didn't have to write. And OS Query is more industry accepted, and it's a good tool for periodically just wondering. So like you can go in here, here's the database query, and then it'll crap this out into Loki. It's super cool. I'll dive into it more as I play with it. But it's probably going to be dashboards around that. And it might just start off as like number of queries run, uh, what queries were run in a pie chart if I even get that data. But yeah. Grafana's restarting right now, but it should come up happy. Cool. It should be happy now. And if I reload this, yay. So now I get the number of alerts. Yeah, it shows up out of order, but yeah, they're there. It's Suricata alerts show up as just like a JSON file, and it has different fields for different signatures, so there's never going to be like an aesthetically pleasing table that's going to help you out besides showing just like the source and dest IP address. So I could probably make pie charts around it, but yeah, it's fun streaming again. Hopefully I get more time to do it. Feel free to contact Shift Systems. Our GitLab, how to reach out to us is all below. So see ya.